Okay, welcome everyone back to the Macedon Bowls interview series. Today we have Steve Graham, who's been a member for some time at the club. Steve, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Steve Graham. They call me Veg. Been a member of the Macedon Bowling Club for 5 years. 61 years of age. 61 years of age. Um, and been living at Mount Macedon for about 37 years. Bought the block of land up there just after the bushfires and moved in 1989. Yeah, 1989 I moved in, I think it was. Started building in 86, yeah, and moved in 89. The builder went broke on us, so it was a slow process. Was involved with the footy club, cricket club, fire brigade, and now I'm happily involved with the bowls club.
Awesome. Okay, so how did you come to start playing bowls?
Greg Kennedy asked me about playing bowls. When he came down, I was talking to Greg. It was he suggested it, and also with Alan Stevenson. And it probably came at the right time. I was looking for something, even though my health hadn't been flash. I was looking for something to do, and it all happened at the right time. I just wish I had done it 30 years ago, like everybody says.
Everyone says.
Yeah, so,
I started when I was 19 and I still wish I'd started earlier.
I agree, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And you've only ever played for Macedon?
That's correct, yeah.
Yep. There we go. You've mentioned you've played cricket, football. I know you've also done triathlons. You say you've pretty much dabbled in every sport.
Yep.
What would have been your most favourite sport?
Oh, probably cricket, yeah. I love doing triathlons and the challenge of that. I found that really, really interesting. And I probably wish I had stuck at that one. I was training for the Hawaiian Ironman, and circumstances had it that I never got there, so I sort of regret that.
You no longer have an Ironman build.
No, I don't, mate, but my body's paying for all the training I've done now. I am paying for it now, believe it or not. It's yeah, that was a long time ago.
So why didn't you get there?
Well, I was working in the bank, and I got a really good job at the airport with the bank, which was it was doing foreign currency exchange at the airport, and so I was only about 20, 21. I was getting the same. I was getting more than the bank manager was getting, basically, and also got engaged at the time as well. So I just found it hard to focus and concentrate on training and things like that, because back then the airport was really well isolated from everything, and just the hours were hard. And then I got engaged, and then I found myself working two other part-time jobs as well. So I had three jobs on the go, and just all got too hard.
Yeah, fair enough. Just the other day, Thursday last week, you won club champion. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great effort. Obviously, I was watching the game. Came down to the last end.
Last shot.
Yes, where Boz Wazzle was holding two shots needed to win. And on your last bowl, you managed to knock one of your other bowls in to take shot and win the game.
Yeah.
How did you feel when that happened?
Very hollow. I felt bad. I felt awful. I felt awful for Boz. It was. I mean, the shot was in the frame. I could see that was a possibility if I knocked it up, but that's not what I was trying to do. So I felt awful that getting victory in that manner, even though it's always a possibility. And I knew that if I didn't get it right, that there was still a chance. But yeah, it just felt awful. It was a very hollow victory, in all honesty, and yeah, I don't know what. I can't celebrate. And you don't want to celebrate. You're playing against people you like, and and you don't want to be gloating or boasting, and it probably wasn't the way to win. And having said that, we played on Saturday, and the opposition were getting wicks and nicks and everything like that every single time. So
Yep.
I suppose you take it to a degree. So
Yeah, and besides, many times throughout the game, you'd bump one of his bowls up and give him a shot, and he'd do the likewise.
oh yeah,
It's like
yeah.
you were sharing the love.
We were. It was close. It was up and down the whole way, and it was a pretty tight contest, and look, in that regard, it was a good contest. I don't think it was a great game of bowls, but it was a good tight contest and played in good spirit.
Yep.
And yeah, maybe the end result would have been a shared title.
Your wife did make the best comment of the match, where she suggested that Boz was now going to double his pricing on a gate he's built in you.
Yeah, I haven't got the gates yet. And, it'd be interesting to see whether they come in a hurry now or they come slow. But no, I'm sure they're going to be fine.
Yeah. You've mentioned to me that one of the most exciting events from your past was playing a cricket grand final with your son. Tell us a little bit.
Well, I was part of forming a father-son team at Macedon. So there was a couple of dads got together, and when we all had kids that were aged anywhere between 11 and 16, 17. And so we had a father-son team, and second or third year in, we won the flag, and it's pretty special when you're playing a premiership with your son, and that was when I was happy to stop playing cricket at that point in time. So I was about 46 at the time, and that was pretty special. Yeah, it was really special.
Yep. Do you have any other great memories from time playing sport? Not bowls, we're just the other sports.
Oh, yeah, look, I did some umpiring for a while, which I really enjoyed. I had some good memories of umpiring and doing different things there. The triathlons were good, and training for the triathlons were good. I used to love getting out and just running, going on a good long run or good long ride or whatever, and swimming. I did a cruise one year, and the cruise director was into triathlons as well, and I can remember at Hamilton Island jumping off the cruise ship and swimming for about 4 or 5 kilometres with him, and that was pretty good. It was out in the tropics, and that was lovely. So yeah, little things like that. You don't think about the pain and the hurt you're going through. You think about afterwards. You think about other things. At the time, it's very painful. So yeah.
Fair enough. What would you say has been your best on the green memory of your time playing bowls?
That's a good question. I have lots of good memories, fond memories. I think probably the first pennant game that I ever played for the club was a terrific memory because I was playing against an opponent who was a young girl who was about 11 or 12, 11 years old. And we also had people playing that were in their 90s on the green that day. So I remember looking around thinking, how good is this? That as a young person, there was myself. I considered myself to be young. Well, at that point in time, I think only Glenn was the youngest member before me. Scotty Gilman as well, so I was one of the younger ones anyway. And yet there was old Sid that was playing. He was in his 90s, and there was other people in their 80s and things like that. That is a memory I do remember very well. Just looking around and just taking all that in, just absorbing it. So obviously the other ones were, winning flags, which was special. But you get so intense with that you're not necessarily absorbing it because it's just the intensity's there. So you don't necessarily take that in at the time. Because you don't get the chance to sit back and enjoy it as it's happening. But when you look back at it, you go, especially if you played a couple of good shots or made a difference. Yeah. I think just with bowls, me personally, I just special memories just actually playing bowls with people. I miss Marie Elliott a lot. I love playing bowls with her. She was good fun and we were good mates.
Yeah. I can't say I had the pleasure of meeting her. So
lovely lady, and they, for some stupid reason, they made me skip her with Mari and Anne Selesky, and they were great. Just the three of us in full game because we're always shorter players, whatever. I really enjoyed that time as well.
Yeah, fair enough. You've also got another child. So we've mentioned your son playing cricket.
Oh, yeah, got a daughter, Katie. Who got married 2 weeks ago now, nearly a week and a half ago. Yeah.
Do you have a special fond memory from the past of time with Katie?
Oh yeah, always. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
One that you're willing to share.
I think with the kids, there's lots of memories. I think just seen, well, even the wedding last week, just seen it develop into a young woman. So you take that, and as a father, you reflect on it. You stand back and watch it, and you reflect. So I think that's pretty special. But watching her play sport as well, and you know, you can't be in a father-daughter team necessarily, but I used to go and watch her play all the netball games and things like that. So yeah, I've been pretty fortunate with the kids. They're both terrific kids, and I'm very proud of them.
Yeah. And her now husband played for us at Macedon for a very short period of time.
Yeah, and I can't get him. I don't know if I'll be able to get him up to play again. Look, his job as a pilot just makes it hard. It just makes it too hard. He can't commit to anything.
Yeah.
But they've moved into Moonee Ponds, so he's right between Moonee Ponds and Moonee Valley clubs. Literally, he could walk to either of them. And I think he will go on and play again there. Whether I can get him back or not, I don't know, but we'll see what happens.
Yep, fair enough. What would you say has been your biggest challenge during your lawn bowls career?
Oh, consistency. Just being consistent. Everyone will know you can go out one day and set the world on fire and feel like you're a champion and you're good, and then you come out the next day and you bowl absolute poo. So I think for me it's consistency. It's and it's learning. I still want to learn and everything like that, but I think the challenge is to just be consistent and get to a level where you don't drop back from that level. You stay at that level, and you might come above it, but you don't come back at least, and that's still to happen. So that'll happen, hopefully.
So you grew up in the western suburbs out near Albion.
Correct.
In Albion.
Yep.
Went to primary school out there, which you said you absolutely loved.
Yep, correct.
I'm guessing it was the teachers and the students that your friends there that made it good, or
I had a good bunch of friends. I had some terrific teachers and a lot of influences in our life. I had a tough upbringing, a lot of family troubles, and so the teachers were very good to me and to my mum and my sister, and so that encouraged me going forward. I was very fortunate to a couple of teachers. Merv Hughes' dad was my school teacher in grade 6, and he was a wonderful teacher. But the teachers before that as well. So, and they really, the way they went about their teaching set you up for later life. I think you get a bit lost in the system when you go to a high school, but in a primary school and because of what was going on at home, all the teachers knew, so they were nurturing us as well, which really helped. Yeah. I was lucky.
Yeah, you haven't mentioned your dad much, so I'm guessing there were issues there.
Yeah, my dad was a very violent person and made life difficult for us. Yeah, and my parents split up my parents separated when I was nearly 8. It was actually just about on my 8th birthday, and divorced when I was 12. So
yeah. You then progressed to high school, but unfortunately, a regret of yours is you didn't finish it. Was there a reason?
I left high school. I finished year 11. Failed maths and failed accounting and got a job in the bank at the end of year 11. But I up until year 9, I was flying. I was a straight A student, and I'd been to Melbourne. I'd gone to Melbourne to get all the faculty notes. I wanted to be a lawyer and all that sort of stuff. And then I sort of lost my way year 10 onwards a little bit, and and end up probably not achieving what I would have liked to achieve. And also year 12, when you do year 12, and I saw this with my kids, they both did year 12, they have a special bond with the kids they did it with. There's that sense of going right through school and that sense of achievement and doing it all together. So I miss that bit. And so I constantly think about that. And I would have liked to have gone to university, I think. So that's something that's probably, got me over the years, yeah.
Did your children manage to get to university?
My daughter did, yeah. My son did year 12 and came and worked with me in the business, and my daughter went through uni and did journalism at La Trobe, and so she got through that all right. And I don't think Mitch didn't want to go to uni. I think he was just happy just to plod along, and so that's worked out all right for both of them, I think. Yeah.
Yep. Over your time playing bowls, what would you say was your best game ever?
Well, that's probably for others to decide. I would have thought um, probably the grand. I reckon the grand final was probably my best game of bowls in Div 2 last year. I reckon that was probably my best game.
Div 2 on Saturday.
Yeah, on the Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either that or the semi final, I think, but it's probably for others to decide, not me. But I think for me, I felt like I really contributed. So,
Yep.
yeah.
And that's definitely the main thing, that you actually think you've contributed.
Yeah.
Because you can get really down on yourself when you keep putting sloppy bowls down.
Like last week. Yep.
So you went from banking to real estate. How did that happen?
Well, as I said, I'd been working at the airport doing foreign currency and conversions when people got off the aeroplane. And I'd been there for 3 years, and then I got a promotion. So got promoted back into general banking. So that promotion came with a salary, a wage loss of about 15,000 a year. So I went backwards because I wasn't doing the shift work and travel money and all that sort of stuff. So and I couldn't handle general banking because the banking industry had changed in that time. Computers had come in and all those sorts of things, and terminals weren't like they were, and I couldn't handle it. And so I applied for 5 jobs in different fields and got them all, and went for the tough. I'd only just got married and everything, so I went for the toughest one, which was real estate, which was no guarantee of an income, and it was fortunate that I went to a good company, and as it happened, my wife was working. She basically got my job at the airport and the bank anyway. So so we've been pretty fortunate in that regard, and real estate was good to me. I did that for about 5 years, and in the end I ended up running 4 offices, and then I was doing auctions on the side. My day off was on a Tuesday, so on a Tuesday I'd go and do a horse auction anywhere around Victoria somewhere every second Tuesday, and occasionally on Sundays I'd do horse sales somewhere as well, or the bloke had an antique shop. We used to do auctions with him, and then I progressed on to doing other auctions as well whilst I was still doing real estate. And then I got out of real estate and just did auctions and became a lollipop lady at Mount Macedon Primary for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked part time and looking after the kids, being a lollipop lady and doing the occasional auction here, there and everywhere. Did that for 5 years and sort of just built the business up from there.
Yep. Because now you don't just sit auctioning houses or horses or whatnot. You've got a whole ensemble of things you
don't do horses, mate. I bloody hate them. No, we do all sorts of things, and I'm 30 years into it now, 30 some years into it now, and looking to scale it back a little bit now. Yeah.
You've told me that you once had the opportunity to auction off a VC medal and a Charlotte medal.
Yeah. I used to do, because I was a freelance auctioneer as well, so companies would employ me. So I did auctions for an international numismatic company, coins and banknotes, and they would do 3 auctions a year, and I would do 2 for them a year probably. They had clients from all over the world, and I was fortunate enough to auction off a VC, and also what was called the Charlotte Medal, which was the medal was made by a convict coming out in the First Fleet, right? Mm. And he was a tinsmith. He'd been transported, and on the ship he'd been given absolute flocking. He'd been belted by the guards and all sorts of things, and the surgeon looked after him and brought him back to good health. So and was very kind to him. So to thank him, he melted a saucepan and made a medal for him, which was a picture of the ship with the Charlotte on it, had all the longitude and latitudes and other information on it, and he made this beautiful medal and presented it to the surgeon. And then the ship landed, and he was put to slave labour and all that rest of it, and he tried to escape and whatever, and he was the first convict that was hung in Australia, right? That medal got handed down through the family, and I was fortunate enough to auction it off, which consequently got sold to the National Maritime Museum in New South Wales for $750,000. And I think it was the same year I did the VC medal that was awarded to Ted Kenner, and that got sold for $1,002,000 to a private collector. There was an underbidder who was going to donate it, a well-known underbidder who was going to buy it and donate it to the War Museum, which he's done with several other VC medals, but a private collector beat him in the end. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say has been the most unusual thing you've auctioned off?
Oh, I don't know. People ask me this all the time, and I don't have a direct answer. I don't know. You know, honestly, I've done some really unusual things. A lot of charity auctions where you get really unusual things, and I've done a lot of auctions for the gay community over the years, and there's some really unusual things that come in those sales. And you know, lots of different homemade things and really rare and interesting collectible things. Unusual, I'm not sure, mate. I just, only because I've auctioned that many things, you don't think about it too much, I suppose, and so I don't. I tend to sell them and then forget about it to a degree. So,
Yeah.
you know, someone has to remind me.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hence why you needed your wife to tell you something interesting about your life story.
Correct. Yeah. My life's not that interesting, mate. It hasn't been that interesting. It's just, you know, other people might read it differently, but to me, it's just part of life. You just move on. So.
Fair enough. The friendships at Macedon are a big part of why we stay there, because you know, it's not all about the game,
Correct.
and it's also why we get involved in the club activities and whatnot, and that. Who are the people that have made your experience of the club amazing, and why have they?
Every single person in the club has. Everyone. There's not one person. What does it say? It takes a village to build a city, or whatever it is. It's not one person. It's everybody. Everyone, and that's the good thing about that club. You know, I've been involved in quite a few clubs over the years, and you know, they're all good, but you're always going to have people that want to buck the system or whatever. But really, you know, like, I've just really enjoyed my time with everybody. It's just lucky, mate. We're very lucky.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Your wife, Christine's really interesting, and seems like she endures you.
I think everybody endures, don't worry.
How did you meet?
Through the bank, basically.
Yep.
Yeah. Christine was going out with a friend of mine, and him and I went overseas when we were 18, just turned 18, and she'd been going out with him, and then they had a bust up and just went from there.
You swooped in.
Swooped in about 6 months later, or 12 months later. She might have swooped in, I reckon, not me.
Does your friend still talk to you?
No, we haven't spoken since then.
How did you propose to her?
She proposed to me, actually. I proposed to her a lot earlier. I proposed to, where did I proposed to her. I got down on one knee and proposed to her, and she said no. And then a few months later, I went off to Renmark. They had made up a Renmark. Him and his family had a floating restaurant, party boat type thing. And I went and worked on the boat with him for a few days and drove back and come back, and she jumped out from behind the bush and told me that we were getting married, and she booked the church and everything. So that was the end of that, mate. It was hooroo magoo, goodbye to you. Yeah.
So I'm guessing there was a short time between the proposal and the wedding.
No, it was a long. I reckon there was a good nine months or so in there. It was a long time, and it was a big wedding. She had seven bridesmaids, I think, or something like that. It was, and I had two blokes, so yeah.
A few of the bridesmaids missed out.
Yeah.
Was it a good wedding?
Terrific wedding. It was 43 degrees. It was on Valentine's Day 1986. It was 43 degrees and stinking hot. Had it at home in the backyard at my mum's place in Sunbury. Marquee. Got out of the tuxes, into the shorts, into the beers. Had a great night. It was fantastic. Yeah.
You've mentioned you've got an older sister and a mother earlier.
Yeah.
You've also got a younger brother.
Yeah.
Do you still get on with your family? Do you have some great memories of your mum, your elder sister, and your brother?
Well, yeah, my elder sister, and myself were brought up together, basically. But my sister left. It was a bit fractured sort of family. My sister left when she went and lived with the old man for a while. Typical teenage girl, arguing with mum all the time, right? And then regrets later, right? But I get along with her, and I'm trying to get along with her more. She's lovely, and my younger brother is as a result of mum remarrying, so he's 15 years younger than me, and and then mum died when he was young, and so we've had to look up, help bring him up a little bit, and so he's got 2 young kids now himself. So I don't see enough of him, and I don't see enough of my sister either. Families, as you get older, you try to realise that families can be important to you, and you try. I need to put more time into that, I think. Yeah.
If you could have your time over, what would you change about your time playing bowls?
Well, I'd start a lot younger, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd start a lot younger, and therefore I would have, if I had started a lot younger, I would have get a lot more coaching and advice, which I still think I need now, but that's probably what I would have done. The perception is always that it's an old person's game, and it's not. In fact, it's becoming a young person's game, and if you, it's sort of harder to achieve now unless you're really younger, and so if I had my time again, I would have started bowls, knowing what I know now. I didn't know that at the time, but knowing what I know now, I would have made an effort to play a lot more bowls and not work as much.
Yeah. So same question, but what would have you changed about your life if you could change something else?
Well, it's a hard question because I as I said, I had a pretty tough upbringing, but I certainly changed that so my mother wouldn't have to go through what she went through. Um, but the lessons I learned from that and the love that I got out of that, you wouldn't want to lose that either. So I think I would change if I wouldn't have worked as much as I had. I would spend more time with family. I think that's you get involved, and blokes are pretty one-dimensional people. They focus on one thing because they can only do one thing, where women can multitask. And so I used to focus on one thing and just do it and try and do it to the best I could. And the only thing I could really do in my whole life that any good was to yell for a living. And the rest was all about providing and doing the rest of it. So I would have put more focus on family, less focus on work. And yeah, I think so.
Yeah. You've got another hobby that's not heard of often, and that's postcard collecting. How? Why?
I got into postcards because I'd go to people's houses and look at stuff, and they'd be throwing postcards out, and I couldn't understand that because back in the day the postcard was the telegraph, it was the phone call, it was the phone before phones were there, and I could never understand why family would throw that history away. So I would keep them to honour the family, or I would buy them to honour the family, right? So I ended up with a fair collection of postcards. I have been selling some off recently, just the basic ones, but I'm keeping all the really good ones and the ones that are treasured. I'm only small in the postcard. Well, I'll probably diverse a bit more, but I had about 11,000 cards. But in the postcard world, that's nothing. It's very minuscule. But I kept them more so to honour the people that I was dealing with, and to honour the history of people. I've got a really good collection of Mount Macedon postcards and local history postcards, and also World War One postcards, which I quite like, because that's part of the history as well. And it was just something I got into. I don't get into it and like a lot of people do and really get right into the whole thing about it. I keep them. Every now and again I get out and look at them and I read them, and to remember, because I can relate to the person I got them off or the family I got them from, and I find that pretty good. And coming up over Christmas, because I keep most of my postcards down the beach because I'm scared of bushfires here. I'll sit down and read them and look at them again.
Yeah. On the bushfires, it's odd you moved in just after the bushfires. What? Weren't you worried?
No, No, because I'd always had a plan. And coming from where I come from, I was always trying to get ahead, and I'd always had a plan to, as a kid, I used to say to people, I'm going to live up there when we point to Mount Macedon, yeah, and I did. I don't remember saying it at the time, but people reminded me that. So I wasn't worried about fires because the fires I've been through, and and also you don't think like that when you're 22, 20, 21, 22. You just don't think that way. You think differently. Um, you worry about fires now. I worry about them now, and back then I didn't worry about them. I was always brave. I joined the fire brigade, and and you think you just go to fight the fire, and that's it. Now you shut the front door, you get in the car, and you go about 2 hours before it gets anywhere near. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's the same plan we've got.
Yeah,
we've been on just off the mountain.
Yep.
You've travelled extensively throughout the world, pretty much. You've mentioned that Florence was the best trip you've ever had. What made it so special?
The history, just going to a place that's, Australia's got a history that goes back 200 odd years. You go back to a place that's thousands of years of history, and I'd never been a museum person or a history person like that, but to go to those places and just walk through the museums and just absorb it all, and you could go to a different museum every day for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and I wanted to go back to every single one of them again and again and again, and just to sit in the streets and watch the world go by. It was a fabulous trip, just fabulous, and again we were very fortunate. We stayed at a lovely place that was the first time bed and breakfast place. It was a building that was built in the 1300s, and we rented this apartment that it was his first time ever putting it out as a B&B, and it had 3 levels plus a rooftop that overlooked the city, and one street back from the river. It was just wonderful time, wonderful, and we stayed there for 4 weeks. So it was just my daughter was doing part of a uni course there, and so while she was there for her time, we spent some time with her as well. So it was great.
Awesome. Yeah. So the last question that we ask absolutely everyone, for those watching who might not have played before or have only just started playing bowls, the hardest question: why bowls?
Bowls is a sport or an activity that you can do, that you can either do it socially and just play socially and enjoy yourself, just having fun and intermingling with all the people around you. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with a group of people. You can just sneak down anytime you like and have a bowl, and that's a good thing. But if you want to take it to another level and be competitive and play pennant, then that opportunity is there. And what's good about bowls is that you can also then go on from there and play in other tournaments anywhere in Australia. You can go and play in the Big Open or the Australian Open without having to worry about qualifying. Anybody can do it, and I think that's wonderful. So the opportunities are there for you, and as you get into bowls, when you start as a social thing, and you want to take the next step, that next step is always there for you. The opportunity to go further with your bowls, the opportunity to challenge yourself is there. The opportunity to improve all the time is there. It's one of those sports, like in cricket or footy, you get to a point where you're never going to improve, but with bowls, you can always improve. And if you get to a stage where you've trouble bending over anymore, you can use a bowling arm, a stick, right? We call them cheat sticks. But that's another skill set again, and it gives you then get the option to develop that skill as well. And that just keeps you going, it keeps you motivated, keeps you improving. And along the way, whilst you're doing that, you're meeting a lot of other people, you can do a little bit of travel, and you just have a lot of good times with some just wonderful people. Yeah. So if you're only just starting in your bowls journey, stick with it, all right, and invite other people to come along the journey with you, because you'll find that your life will change dramatically for the better.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Steve.
Thanks, Shane.
Great, wonderful interview, and have an amazing Christmas as well.
And you too, and to everybody watching as well. All the best for Christmas. See you in the new year.